You assume that seeing means observing what lies before you. You look at the world and believe that what you see reveals what is there. Yet Shams Tabreez questioned this confidence. He said that what you see never stands apart from how you see. Perception, for him, was not passive reception but active projection. Every gaze is colored by the mind that casts it. The world does not conceal the divine. The self's way of seeing does. When you look through separation, you encounter differences. When you look through love, you recognize unity. Shams claimed that the gaze itself determines the world it perceives. The question, then, is not what do you see, but who's the one that sees? Shams Tabreez lived in the 13th century, an age when religion had turned into repetition. He refused both ritual comfort and intellectual pride. His words overturned spiritual certainty. When he met Rumi, it was not knowledge that passed between them, but a reorientation of sight. Rumi did not gain new understanding. He lost the illusion of the separate observer. Shams taught that divine reality is not reached through new doctrines, but through purification of perception. What blinds the seeker is not the absence of God, but the insistence on seeing through the self. You believe you see things as they are. Yet every act of seeing is shaped by what you expect, fear, or desire. You don't observe. You confirm. The mind edits reality to fit the image it already holds. Shams said this is not perception, it is repetition. You see only what maintains your continuity. Every opinion, every judgment, every category turns vision into a mirror of the self. The moment you stop agreeing with these inner narratives, the world stops echoing you and begins to reveal itself. Can there be pure perception when every act of seeing depends on what you already believe you are? Shams Tabreez declared that true seeing begins only when ownership of perception ends. He said, "The gaze that sees God has no owner. The one who looks must vanish before what is real can appear. As long as you call it your seeing, you look through a frame. When that claim dissolves, awareness itself begins to see. Then, perception is no longer possession but participation, the real witnessing itself through a transparent point. The gaze reveals not what lies outside, but what remains when separation ends." In this view, the world is not composed of things, but of ongoing revelation. If awareness itself is what sees, what remains to call mine or yours? You call judgment clarity. You think the name, compare, and analyze is to know. Yet judgment binds perception to division. It confirms that you stand apart from what is seen. Shams warned that judgment hides fear, the fear of being changed by what is encountered. You judge to protect identity, to remain unexposed. But to see God, the gaze must be free of verdicts. Innocence, he said, is not ignorance but openness seeing without the will to decide. When you stop assigning meaning, things begin to disclose their own. Can you look at anything without trying to preserve yourself in the act of seeing it? Shams are distinguished between two eyes, the eye that measures and the eye that witnesses. The first belongs to the intellect. It separates, names, and classifies. The second belongs to awareness itself. It does not seek understanding, but realization. He called it the eye of the heart. This is not emotion, it is perception freed from interpretation. When the heart sees, meaning no longer depends on thought. Each form points back to the same source. What appears as multiplicity is recognized as a single presence expressing itself in endless ways. The world is not many things known by one observer, it is one truth appearing through countless perspectives. If the heart alone sees unity, Why does the intellect insist on fragments? You try to look at awareness as though it were another object, but each attempt turns awareness into a thought. Shams said that the observer cannot see truth because its very stance divides the scene. When that division ends, perception continues, but the perceiver dissolves. What remains is immediate recognition, seeing without the eye. This is not loss, but release from the need to locate yourself in experience. The real sees through you, not alongside you. The question changes. It is no longer what am I looking at, but what remains when no one looks. When the ownership of vision disappears, perception changes in quality, but not in content. The same world appears, yet it no longer seems opposed to you. The same awareness that looks through you looks through everything. Difference remains in expression, but not in essence. Shams described this as the shift from looking at to looking through. There is no effort in this seeing. It happens by itself when resistance ends. What once appeared fragmented becomes continuous. The gaze no longer seeks. It abides. If seeing no longer divides, is there still something to be found? For Shams, correct seeing was the root of all moral clarity. When you see God in all, harm becomes impossible. Compassion is no longer virtue, but recognition. You act gently not because you should, but because no true separation remains. To injure another is to obscure your own vision. Every action becomes a form of acknowledgement. Worship is no longer confined to ritual. It appears in the way you perceive, the way you respond, the way you refrain. The world becomes transparent, not because it fades, but because its essence is now seen as one. What responsibility follows when every face is the same awareness looking back? At this point, the question of seeing God dissolves. There is no separate I, no distant object. Seeing and seen are two names for one act. The gaze that reveals God is not mystical vision, but the end of duality. Shams Tabreez called this the freedom of awareness, when the real ceases to be an object of pursuit and becomes the fact of perception itself. You realize that what you called your vision was never yours. The divine was never hidden. It was the one looking. When the gaze returns to unity, the seer, the act, and the seeing are one unbroken intelligence. What remains to search for when the seeing itself is the proof of what is seen?